Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Live Natural, Live Well. I'm your host, Heather Lounsbury. In just a minute, I'm going to be bringing on someone I consider a vegan superhero, Kathy Freston. She's a New York Times bestseller and has inspired countless people. Maybe she can tell me some great stories about that today, to ditch the animal products and live a healthier, more compassionate life. I'm really glad to have her on today. And just before I bring her on, as a reminder, please mark my show as a favorite, and if you want to call with any questions, the number is 347-884-9533. That's 347-884-9533. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How about you?
Great. Thanks for coming on today. I know you're insanely busy.
Well, as we all are, and I'm so thrilled to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. For my listeners who might not know who you are, you want to give us a little background about your story?
Oh, sure. I would call myself an author and a wellness activist, and so I started writing books about relationships and consciousness and how to grow deeper and work on personal evolution through relationships. And that grew into more of an overall interest in wellness as a whole, so body, mind, and soul, not just relationships, but how we relate to the world around us. And I realized that one of the things that I was not delving into was food. And food is something that we obviously engage with at least 3 times a day. And so here I was talking about becoming more conscious and becoming more aware and trying to evolve, and I had not even looked into my food. So as I started doing that, because I didn't want to be a hypocrite, I found out how food got to our plate, and I was really disturbed by it and began to challenge myself to move away from eating animals and toward a plant-based diet. And as I delved more and more into that, I became slightly obsessed with the subject matter because it was something that could affect me so deeply in all the areas of my life, not just my sense of ethics and spirituality, but also my health, my standing as an environmental steward, and someone who's interested in global poverty and all of those things. It's one of those areas, food, that can affect us in so many areas of our lives. So I became a wellness activist, sort of focusing on food.
Great. I like all the reasons that you mentioned, because that's what inspired me as well. And I think once the light bulb goes off and you just see the answers and discover how food does get to our plate, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It's pretty mind-blowing, and I think that there's a reason that we are not aware of it, because it's like a survival mechanism, It's so deeply disturbing to really look at it. It's like we turn off a switch. We compartmentalize things. I had gotten hints of it in my 20s. I remember having a book on my bedside called Diet for a New America by John Robbins, and I would open it up to read it, and then I would slam it shut because it was so disturbing. And yes. I just wasn't ready to make that move. And, it's like a light bulb goes off that when we're ready to look at it, there's kind of no turning back.
Yeah, and I think our attachment, emotional and physical attachment to food is so intense, like way more than people even realize.
And that's sort of the basis of my philosophy about leaning into it, because food is such a tradition that brings us a sense of peace and connectedness with our family, with our community, and those traditions are not easy to shake off, and I realized I don't want to shake them off. I don't want to give up the traditions that I love. I want to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with my family. I want to do the cookouts and have burgers and hot dogs and all kinds of barbecue. I want to have, Mexican night with my family. I want to have a big steaming bowl of chili when it's cold out. I don't want to give up those traditions. And so what I realized is that I don't have to. I can lean into a healthier way of eating without moving away from the things that make me really happy and comfortable. So I can eat the foods that I love. I can just eat better versions of them. So instead of having a hamburger, I have a veggie burger. It's pretty much the fixins that make me feel like I'm home and enjoying, a burger. It's the pickles and the ketchup and the mustard and the slice of tomato, and I can have the Mexican, taco or burrito. I just have it with black beans rather than crumbled meat. I can have the chili with black beans or lentils or texturized vegetable protein rather than meat. I can really enjoy all the things that I grew up loving, but just better versions of them, and that's what has worked for me, is just leaning into it. Just sort of gradually moving in the direction of plant-based foods replacing animal-based foods.
And I'm curious, because my own path, I gave up meat when I was 14 and fish a couple of years later, and it took me over 2 decades to finally give up dairy. And what was I was so attached to my cheese.
Yeah.
But
I totally get
what
that.
Was the process?
Yeah, there's actually a reason for that. Actually, there's something in dairy during the process of digestion that the casein in dairy breaks apart into a host of opioids, and they're called casomorphines. And note the word morphine in there, and just like morphine, it means it's addictive,
Yeah.
And if you think about it, nature designed mother's milk to have a drug-like effect on the infant's brain so that it ensures that the little one stays bonded to the mom. And it's nature's way of making sure that the little one, the baby or the calf, continues to get all the nutrients he or she needs. So milk is literally physiologically addictive.
Yes.
But that doesn't serve us as we get older. We don't need mother's milk. We certainly don't need milk from a cow. So it's harder. It's like an addiction that we need to break away from, and that's why crowding out really works for me and for a lot of people that I've worked with. Crowding out means you are putting in healthier versions of the things that you love, and that crowds out the craving for the old stuff. So, for instance, if you love cheese, you love milk, you love all things dairy, instead of just saying, okay, no more milk, no more cheese, instead of milk, you just have milk made from a plant-based source. So soy milk or almond milk, rice milk, hemp milk, there's so many different great healthy substitutes. And there's cheese out there that's made from rice or soy or tapioca, and it melts beautifully. I make my own pizza with it. So you can have all the cheesy, creamy stuff that you love, but it doesn't have that addictive quality, and then you're not going to miss the stuff that you grew up loving.
And I have to add to that, Coconut Bliss is one of my favorite ice creams. I'm assuming you've probably had that.
So good. There's so many great ice creams out there, It's like there's nothing you really miss anymore. I love, I think it's called It's So Delicious Cherry Nirvana. Oh, my gosh, it is unbelievable. So all that creamy stuff can so easily be replaced. It's just a matter of, getting on the case and looking for it. When you realize you don't have to give up anything, you just have to find the alternatives that really appeal to you. And nothing's going to be exact. It's not going to taste exactly like the ice cream you're used to or exactly like the cheese you grew up loving, but it's going to be a pretty darn close alternative. And your taste buds really do adjust. And knowing how much healthier it is for you, knowing that these plant-based alternatives have zero cholesterol and very little saturated fat, far fewer calories, all that stuff makes it, easier to move in the direction of plant-based alternatives.
Exactly. And who did you have sort of a health guru that guided you and answered your questions at the beginning, or were there a handful of people? I'm curious.
There were a handful of people or organizations. I kind of came at this way of eating through the door of my, I guess you could call it ethics or sense of what's right to me, what felt right to me. So I was first really, moved by the plight of animals. And so I looked to the organizations like the Humane Society of the United States or Mercy for Animals to see what was going on for animals. So I really looked to them for the videos and the, breaking investigative stories because I really wanted to know the truth. And I thought, I'm going to move away from eating animals, but I know I'm just going to gain a ton of weight and I'll probably, get sick because we all need animal protein. And I was convinced of this stuff. And so I became really, really excited when I started reading studies like the China study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell of Cornell, or Caldwell Esselson's work from the Cleveland Clinic, or Dr. Dean Ornish, who, reversed heart disease with a vegan diet. The more studies, the more science that I learned from these incredibly brilliant doctors and nutritional scientists, I realized that I'm not only doing something that felt right in my soul, but I'm doing something that's really great for my health. And I started to lose weight. I started to get more energy. I was sleeping better. And my numbers really improved. When I went to the doctor, my cholesterol dropped and my blood pressure went down. And all this stuff was happening in tandem with my eating a vegan diet. So, I kind of looked around at different gurus, whether they were the doctors or the nutritional scientists or the animal organizations who were bringing that truth to a wider audience.
And for my listeners who might not know who Mercy for Animals or what Mercy for Animals is, do you want to give a little short plug? Because I'm a huge fan as well.
Oh, Mercy for Animals is this incredible organization that they are small, but they're fierce, and they go and do undercover organizations in slaughterhouses, and they videotape the cruelty and abuse that happens to farm animals on a regular basis. I mean, every single time they go into a place, there is abuse, because I think a lot of the slaughterhouses and animal processing places will say, oh, this is an anomaly, it doesn't usually happen, it's just one bad worker. But every time this organization goes into a place, there is routine abuse. And so they take the videotape and they get it out to news organizations and on the internet, and they expose what's going on for animals, because these sweet creatures, and I, never thought about them before. I got to tell you, I grew up not particularly an animal lover. I didn't not like them, but I just never really thought about them.
Right.
But seeing how lovely they are and so innocent, and they're just so in our charge, in our control, really, ultimately, they are our dominion. We take care of them or we abuse them. When I see what happens to them, it's just, it's so motivating to keep on this path. And so organizations like Mercy for Animals and Humane Society of the United States does this kind of work. And it's just it's so incredibly inspiring.
Yes, I've met some of their undercover workers, and of course I have no idea what their real names are or anything, but I always say they are the heroes, the major
Aren't
heroes,
they?
I think.
Yeah.
They have to see it and live it and
I couldn't
hold
do
back.
it. I mean, I couldn't, go and see that stuff, and really you have to participate to a certain level. You have to be on the slaughter line in order to get that video, or you have to, be handling the animals, just to be part of the workers so that you can get the video, I just would be so completely traumatized. But they do it, and they do it over and over again for this greater good, and they are truly the heroes. And we never know their names. We don't know their faces, so that they can continue to work. But they truly are the heroes.
Yeah, I have a hard time just walking past the meat department at Whole Foods. I can't imagine.
It smells bad, doesn't it? To me, it's like it smells like, I don't know, just dead stuff. It's just, awful. But I think there's going to come a day, that there are, right alongside meats, there'll be plant-based alternatives to meats. There's so many good ones out there now, like Gardein, and Beyond Meat is a new one. And I think, gradually they will crowd out that meat department. And there's so many wonderful cheeses that are sprouting up, new companies that are developing cheeses in the same way that dairy cheeses are developed. So they're, not processed. They're basically made the same way dairy cheese is. And so there are going to be, more and more of these companies that are crowding out the staid, old animal-based products, and we're going to see less dairy and less meat. And, hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
Yes, there definitely seems to be a domino effect happening. I'm hopeful.
Me too.
Good. So let's talk a little bit more about the lean, because I know you have the paperback version coming out soon.
Yes, it's coming out March 12th, the lean, and it's all about, it's a 30-day plan for healthy, lasting weight loss, and it's incredibly simple, and the reason that I do this process is because I think diets are so hard to follow, and there's this white-knuckle discipline that people put themselves through, and they're, limiting themselves, from food that is really good for them and restricting calories, and it's not a way to live, and people ultimately will give up a diet and go back to their old ways. So the lean is all about gradually leaning into a healthier lifestyle and crowding out the old stuff that made you fat and crowding it out with good, delicious, fiber-filled foods so that you never feel like you're hungry. You never feel like you're giving up something or losing on something. You get to enjoy really good foods along the way. And
can you give, sorry, I have a little frog in my throat. Can you give an example, like one of your recipes that people can get a little teaser?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. You start off, like, for day one. It's a 30-day plan, and so for what you do for day one, you're also going to do for day 2, day 3, day 4, and on through day 30. So day one is eat breakfast. So a lot of people don't eat breakfast. So I'm basically saying do everything you normally do, but add in a fiber-filled breakfast. Now, here's the thing. Animal foods have zero fiber, zilch. Plant foods are filled with fiber, and fiber is the one component that's consistently cited in sustained, lasting weight loss. So you want to make sure you're eating fiber throughout the day, starting off with breakfast. And so if you have a nice bowl of oatmeal, I have a bowl of brown rice with heated almond milk and some nuts and chopped dates in the morning for breakfast, or if you're eating something with fiber in the morning, you're going to feel full. Your metabolism is going to be amped up. When you skip breakfast, your metabolism is slowed down. Your body's in starvation mode. You tend to eat more later on in the day, and that's how you gain weight, and you don't eat the best calories. So day one, eat some delicious breakfast, fiber-filled breakfast. So on day 2, you're going to make sure you eat that breakfast again, and you're going to add in drinking 8 glasses of water a day. And the reason for this is when you are drinking all that water, you're not only hydrating all your organs, you're also making sure your metabolism is working optimally. You need to be hydrated for that to happen. But an interesting study came out of Germany a few years ago that showed people who have 2 cups of water before every main meal actually lose 5 pounds of fat in a 12-week study compared with people who don't drink that water. So that means doing nothing else but adding in that water, doing everything else you normally do, you drop 5 pounds of fat, not water weight, but fat. And so you're going to do that every single day. So you're going to have that habit for the rest of the 30 days. And then third day, you're going to add in an apple a day. And when you add in that apple, sometime throughout the day, you're adding in almost a quarter of your fiber for the day, that necessary fiber. And that fiber from the apple is a special kind of fiber called pectin, and it's like a gelling agent. So it swells and holds water even more so than regular fiber in your belly. So you're going to feel fuller that much longer. You're going to feel satiated. Now, with all this fiber in your diet, as you know, it releases the blood sugar, the glucose, ever more slowly throughout the day. So you're not going to have those highs and lows and cravings and all that hunger. You're just going to be steady throughout the day. And you want to keep your blood sugar steady because that's what keeps your weight at a healthy place so you don't get those crazy cravings. So things like that, those little tiny tweaks, that's not difficult. It's easy to have breakfast every morning. It's easy to add in an apple every day. It's easy to add in some water every day. Those tiny little tweaks throughout the 30-day plan make it super easy to change your metabolism and your habits. And before you know it, by the end of the 30 days, you've kind of transformed the way you eat, and the weight is dropping off, and it drops off in a way that stays off. You've changed your whole body chemistry.
I love your philosophy on this because that's what I encourage with my patients, unless they're in an extreme situation of like stage 4 cancer, is to do things gradually to keep doing it. Because whenever people do any kind of extreme diet, they usually give up, and it's usually not healthy.
It's not healthy, and you're miserable. You know, before I found this way of eating, I did everything. I did the grapefruit diet. I did the Atkins diet. I did all of those things, and you're miserable. You're not eating things that make you feel fulfilled and satiated and happy. So this way of eating, you're not white-knuckling it. You're actually enjoying your food. You get to eat hearty whole grains and legumes, black beans and lentils and big bowls of, giant salad, and along with some whole grain pasta, or you're actually enjoying your food. So it's pretty different than the fad diets that you hear about that last for 17 days, or restrict you to broiled chicken and steamed vegetables, which I think is not only not healthy, as you know, but really boring and a colorless way to live.
Yeah, I can't imagine how not having any flavor to your food just to try to lose weight.
Yeah, yuck, and boring and miserable.
Yeah. I'm assuming you probably get a lot of people contacting you with their success stories, or people you meet out and about. And do you have one that really stands out to you?
Well, I get letters all the time from people who have lost 40 pounds, 50 pounds. There's one couple who the woman has lost 200 pounds and her husband lost 100 pounds. There are families who've transformed the way they eat, and it just makes me so happy. I did a story on the Ellen Show of this family who went vegan to, lose weight and get healthier, and they each lost a lot of weight, and they started exercising, and then they got their kids on the program, and now Betty, the wife, is doing a program at her kids' school to do meatless Mondays and to add in a meatless option, at least one meatless option every day at school, so that kids can start to eat healthier. So that's really exciting to me when I see it ripple out into, the kids' schools and the kids become activists, because I think that's the way things change, is when the whole family gets involved and then the community gets involved. And it's certainly not going to come from the top down. There are powerful corporations and lobbies that want us to keep eating in this unhealthy way. We do in America, but I think on a grassroots level, on the family level, when things start to change, that's when a profound shift is going to happen.
Absolutely, and I know a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, but my husband, my wife, my kids won't do it, so I can't do it." And getting everyone on board like that is, really important for your own success, but obviously the health of your whole family.
Yeah, and when you start seeing the changes, in the first week of eating vegan, your weight starts to drop off. In the second week of eating vegan, your blood sugar and your blood pressure drop. And within the third week, your cholesterol has dropped significantly. So when you see those kind of shifts happen that quickly within a month of eating plant-based, it's very exciting. It's very inspiring. It's like it pushes you to go further, when you see those kind of results that quickly.
And getting off of medication, it's just, you feel better that way, and it's also so much cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't miss work anymore. I have, you probably hear this too, but it's so expensive. Like, well, it doesn't have to be. And to me, it's much cheaper than medical bills and missing work.
Exactly. And by the way, rice and beans are the staples of many South American cultures, and who are not wealthy people, and it's really inexpensive to eat rice and beans. I will tell you that I am not a great chef. I don't have that sort of interest, and I don't have that kind of time commitment, which I know I should have and I would love to develop. But for the most part, I'm pretty simple in the kitchen. I keep some frozen vegetables, and I also get a CSA box, a community-supported agricultural box, delivered, and it's got fresh vegetables. And I have cans of beans, and I have rice, which I have a rice cooker. I make it every couple of days. And I keep it simple. I have some corn tortillas, and I'll make some rice and beans and throw some vegetables in the skillet. I have, different kinds of sauce, whether it's barbecue or soy sauce or, a Thai sauce, and I mix it up and I put some spices in, and it's really inexpensive, super fast, and I always feel satisfied and fulfilled. And so there's definitely not an added expense to eat this way. In fact, like you said, you save a lot of money on doctor's bills, and you're not missing work because you don't get sick as much, but you're also saving money immediately at the grocery store because you're not buying those expensive meats and cheeses and things like that.
Yeah, it definitely is easy on the pocketbook.
Mhm. Yep, it's the convenience foods. If you're eating a lot of the, meat alternatives, which I do like, it's a little bit more expensive. But when the simpler you keep it, and by the way, the simpler you keep it, the healthier it is, then it's really not that expensive at all. In fact, it's cheaper.
I can't remember who I originally heard this for, but the closer your food is to the ground, the better it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you think about it, the human body was made to pick things out of the trees and out of the ground. Our hands are great for picking and digging and stuff like that. We don't have nails and talons that can hold down an animal, rip through flesh, and we don't have the kind of teeth that can, tear at an animal's flesh, and we don't have the kind of digestive acids in our belly that kind of stuff wouldn't kill us with bacteria. We just have those teeth that are made for grinding, and we have a long intestinal tract that is really in need of fiber rather than animal stuff that just rots on its way out. So we're just made to eat this kind of food from trees or in the ground. It's
absolutely
correct.
We only have a minute left, so I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. I can't believe it just flew by like this. I just got the warning beep.
Oh, well, I love talking to you.
Yeah, that was so fun, and good luck with the paperback. And
thank you.
And we'll have to do this again soon.
Thank you so much. I really love being on your show.
Oh, thank you. You have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Okay, bye. So thank you, Kathy, for coming on today. That was great interview. My next show is going to be with Veggie Grills. For all of you locals in LA or on the West Coast, it's the best vegan, quote-unquote, fast food restaurant, and they're going to be expanding, so definitely keep your eyes and ears open. And then Extreme Athlete Rich Roll is going to be on at the end of the month. Don't forget to mark my show as a favorite. And if you have any questions or want to book a consult with me, I do offer consultations for people all over. 310-259-5165. Take care and stay healthy.